Okay, this is lesson 101, Algebra 1, factorable denominators. And this isn't too bad of a lesson. In fact, it just kind of starts in all of a sudden with the example. So I'm going to pause here and write the first example down. Okay, there's the first example. And what we're doing here is before we can subtract these, we have to find common denominators, right? Alright, kind of hard to find a common denominator when you have something messy like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite our denominators, if possible, such that we can make them simpler. Now the x minus 4 can't be made any simpler than that. That's as simple as we can go. But this here can be made into two binomials. Two numbers multiplied together give me negative 12. And added give me a 1. A 1 is in front of that x. So that would be a 3 and a 4. 3 times 4 is 12, and the difference between those is 1. And the sign of my biggest number is going to be that sign. Okay, so negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12. Negative 4 plus 3 will give me my negative 1 that goes there. Now that's simpler. Alright, now what I'm going to do is move this over a little bit, is I'm going to have to find common denominators. I cannot add these. I cannot put these together, these fractions, unless I have common denominators. You've known that since 3rd grade. Alright, so what we've got here is an x. What we're going to do is we're going to look here and see what we need in order to have a common denominator. Okay, so we've got an x minus 4 here and an x plus 3. Well, we have an x minus 4 here. Do we need that x minus 4? No, we don't. We already have one. Okay, so I don't need anything here. But when I look over here, I've got an x minus 4 and an x minus 4, so I don't need one of those. But there's an x plus 3 here. I don't have one here. This one wants one, so we're going to give him one. But we have to add it to the top and the bottom. We can't just stick it on the bottom. What we do on the bottom, we need to do on the top. Alright, so now, since I have the same denominator, I can make one long fraction with one denominator. The denominator is now common. It's underneath both of them. And then I have 6 minus p times x plus 3. Okay? So what we're going to do with that p times x plus 3 is we're going to go ahead and distribute here and here. So I actually have 6 minus px minus 3p, because this is a minus p times 3 is negative 3p, x minus 4 times x plus 3. And that is not necessarily an answer because I didn't find out what like x equals or anything. But it's just simplified. It's added together. Okay, so let's look at 101.2 example. Okay, so before I do anything here, I have to simplify my denominators if I can to see if I can find anything common. Alright, so let's look at the first one. And we have a x squared minus 5x minus 6. We're going to factor that into two binomials. Two numbers multiplied together give me 6, added give me a negative 5. Okay, so 3 times 2 gives me 6, and added give me 5. And 5 times 1 added, or 6 times 1 give me 6, and subtracted give me 5. So which one do I want? Well, let's try the 3 and the 2. Okay, so what does that give me? Negative 3 times 2 gives me negative 6, but when I add negative 3 and 2, I get negative 1. That's not what I'm looking for here. So the 3 and the 2 don't work. So that means that I'm going to have to use the 6 and the 1, right? And again, that sign is on the biggest number. And because that's negative, we're multiplying a negative times a positive to get the negative 6. Okay, so that one works. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Alright, let's look over here at this right-hand side. I can factor out, see there's an x there and there's an x there, so I can factor out an x, and I've got x minus 6, right? because x times x is x squared, x times 6 is negative x, so that gives me that denominator. Alright, so I'm simplified there. Now I've got to look and see what I'm missing. Alright, let's see what I've got over here. I've got an x minus 6 and an x plus 1. Well, I've got an x minus 6 over here, so I don't care about this one because I have one there, but I've got an x here. I don't have an x over here all by itself. So I'm going to put an x there and an x there. Now I have an x. Now I'm going to look over here. I've got an x, got an x. Got an x minus 6, got one there. So the only thing this one's missing is an x plus 1. Put in parentheses. Now they both have the same things on the bottom. Alright, so let's write this as 7x over and let's distribute that. Alright, so this is where kids get a little confused. I'm going to put it all over one fraction now. Okay, this is what gets to be confusing. What is that minus on? Is that minus on this entire part over here, or is it just on the 5? It's on the entire thing. It's saying minus this part right here. Well, if I'm doing a minus here, I'm going to put, when we minus, we're only worried about the top numbers. The bottoms, we don't really do anything. We have common denominators, but this is minus this whole thing. So one of the things that helps is if I put this in parentheses, so I know I'm subtracting the whole thing, not just the 5x. Okay? So now, when I take the parentheses off, I'm taking minus the 5x. I'm also subtracting the 5 because this is doing this and this. Okay, now I can subtract 7x minus 5x and get 2x over. And notice on the bottom we don't really do anything in the denominator position because it's not really a part of the equation. We just found common denominators, and then after we find the common denominator we don't really care about it. Okay, it just kind of gets drug along. Alright, so let's go ahead and keep moving here. Look at 101.3 example. We have 4x plus 2 over x squared plus x minus 6 minus 4. Okay? Again, we're going to do the exact same thing we did with the other one. We're going to try to simplify before we do anything else. So we're going to do just write the top and don't do anything there. We're going to break this down into two binomials. And we're trying to get two numbers multiplied together that give me 6, added give me a 1. So let's try our 3 and 2 again. And this says the biggest number gets a plus, and because this is a minus, one's a plus, one's a minus. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 3 plus negative 2, or 3 minus 2, is 1. So that works on this one. It didn't work on the last one, but it works on this one. Okay? Simplify that. We have an x in each one, and that leaves us an x with the first term, and it leaves us with just a 3 here. Alright, so now let's see what we're missing. I've got an x plus 3 and an x minus 2. What do I have here that I don't have over here? Well, I've got an x plus 3, so I don't care about that. Ah, there's an x here. I don't have an x over here. Notice I put parentheses around that. I'm multiplying the x times that whole thing, not just times the 4x or the 2. Alright, so now I have an x plus 3, and an x minus 2. He's happy. He's got everything this guy has. But when this guy looks over here, he's like, wait a minute, I don't have an x minus 2. So I'm going to put an x minus 2 on top and bottom. Okay, now they're both happy. So I've got x times 4x plus 2 over minus, and notice now I have common denominators, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and distribute the numbers on the top and not worry about the bottom. So x times 4x is 4x squared plus 2 times x. Why did I just write a 4 there? Don't have any idea. Okay, so I distributed that. Alright, now let's put these together over one denominator, because remember the denominator is going to be x plus 3, and x minus 2, so we can combine them. And remember, minus, that means these go in parentheses. Cannot have a minus sign and not put them in parentheses. Alright, let's take the parentheses off. And remember that minus is on each thing in the parentheses. So minus 4x, so a minus 8 is a plus 8. Okay, let's combine. Only thing I can combine is those. A positive 2 minus 4. And that is a finished problem. That's it. That's lesson 101.